During the year that I hold the title of Miss Utah, you can't have a job and you can't go to school. Those were the rules when I was in.
Wow.
So you're full time, and it honestly is kind of expensive.
Before we get started with our episode, we're going to hear from our sponsors. Listen, with ADHD, losing all of my things is literally a daily occurrence. Which is why I'm thankful for Life 360's new tile trackers. I can track anything with them, even my car when I forget where I parked, because that definitely happens more than it should. My favorite thing about the tile trackers is just how easy they are to use. Keep track of what's important with Tile. Visit tile.com and use code Rebecca for 15% off on all tiles. That's tile.com/Rebecca. Now let's get started with this week's episode. I feel like so many people just don't understand pageant life and just don't. There's so many misconceptions and there's so many stereotypes and stigmas. I think there's so much power, you know? Like people are, I feel like Miss America and even like Miss USA, because you know, they're similar. They're like the same thing but different organizations, right? Yeah. Like I feel like people wonder and are curious, but they don't want to say that out loud and they don't want that on their search history. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a whole other world that people just don't understand. So, like, how did you get started with that?
Are we rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling. Yeah, I just figured why not.
Wow, that was so smooth. I'm so impressed.
Thank you. I'm just like a professional over here.
I love it.
I should probably tell everyone. This is Sasha, everybody. I love Sasha. She's one of my favorite humans. Literally, I've been talking nonstop. Even to my friends on Discord that I play video games with, I'm like, I can't wait to see Sasha. And they're like, we don't know who that is. I'm like, it's okay. It's fine. I'm just excited about it.
Wait, that makes me so happy.
And so for people that don't know, Sasha was one of my first friends on social media. And literally, like, we bonded over our love for Harry Potter. And literally one day Sasha was like, I won Miss Utah and I'm going to compete in Miss America. And I was like, you know what? I just quit teaching. I think I'm just going to fly in and watch you. Like, why not? Why not? When am I ever going to have the opportunity to do that again? Like, it was so much fun. I'm so obsessed with your family. Did I tell you that I literally was on a random flight abroad and like your sister was just on the plane?
Wait, Chelsea?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm like, how did this happen?
Yeah, literally, I kid you not. Like, I'm literally sitting in my airplane seat, and I just look over and I'm like, that woman looks so familiar, and like I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she just walks over, and like then I just see your face and hers, and I was like, oh my god. And she's like, you're Rebecca, and I was like, what? What? This is crazy. And then we just sat and talked about how much we missed you while this airplane went overseas, over the ocean.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy. Wait, I was recounting this story to my friend, and I was trying to remember, was Miss America like the first time that we met in person?
No.
What was that Noble House of Black?
Yeah.
Because at one point you flew out to Utah.
Yeah, I did. I do that. I've always been that person that I'm like, I don't teach anymore. Like, why not fly to meet my friends online and like hang out, make content? Like that would be so much fun. And so like Sasha made this like fanfic prequel of Harry Potter called Noble House of Black. I'm such a Potterhead. Like it's, anyone who knows me knows I'm so obsessed. So when Sasha offered, I was like, oh my God, say less. Yes. And I literally put on the dress for my friend Brittany's wedding from when I was a bridesmaid. I'm like, this is, yes, it's still my profile picture on Facebook, by the way.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm so flattered.
Yeah, literally, I'll even show you right now.
That's incredible.
It's literally still my profile picture.
My love language 100% is taking photos of my friends.
Oh, I love it.
Like, if you're my friend, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, this is literally like...
Wait, I knew exactly what I was like, it's going to be the hand on the tree, look back at it.
Yeah,
amazing.
That's like one of my favorite photos. But yeah, that's how we... And then the second time we met in person was at Miss America. Mm-hmm. And I only saw you for like a total of a few hours. I just hung out with your family and had the best time. I still play, what is that game? I just call it like what is it called? The card game. that your family plays?
Wait, what game did they play?
Oh man, now I
My
got
family plays so many games.
It was a
I've been on a
game.
Catan kick.
Nerds.
Nerds?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They were like really big on Nerds at the time.
Really?
And now it's on my phone and I play it on the airplane.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, I'm like getting to the age where I have nieces and nephews that are like 7, 8, 9, and they're
Yeah.
playing cards and they're really good.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah. And they'll come over for Christmas and they're so good at whatever game they want to play with me. And I'm like, how are you more intelligent than I am?
They have that reaction time that
Yeah.
we've lost it.
And the drive, the passion,
Oh,
the
no.
will to win.
I have that. I don't have the reaction time. That's what I'm missing for sure. And I blame ADHD. I'm medicated and I still blame ADHD. It's not fair. But
Yeah.
long story short, I am obsessed with you.
Well, I am obsessed with you. So
God, I love
this
it. You
works
need to
out
move.
well.
I'm glad you're no longer across the country in Utah, but I need you to come a little bit more south.
That's fair. Okay, wait. Are you working in New York regularly now, or?
No, I'm just here because they're putting my face on that billboard. And I was like, you know what? While I'm
So
here...
casual. They're just putting my face on that one billboard.
No, so
What?
okay.
What is
I
this?
have so my friend Eric has this company called Carrot with a K.
Okay.
And it basically is like accounting. They specialize in like accounting for content creators.
Okay.
They're wonderful. And every 6 months they advertise in Times Square for Carrot. And they use like the Carrot promos, but they use their friends and their clients in social media to also help advertise. And so Eric was like, literally last week was like, hey, do you want to be on a billboard? And I said, yes. So I was like, while I'm here, I might as well like check in with my friends, get some work done, like see some cousins, see Sasha. Yeah.
Wait, that's incredible.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I love that. I also love when you texted me, you were like, I got my first billboard in Times Square.
Yeah, the first one.
I'm like, emphasize the first of many. Like, I
first
love
one.
that.
Yeah, because they do this every 6 months. Just keep Eric as a close friend.
I read it as like the first one, and then like, next year you'll have one of just permanently your face. Because you're a really big deal.
Oh, I'm not that stupid.
In my world, you are. No, the way that I talk about you to my family and friends, like,
Oh,
to me, not to get like gushy on you, but you really are an example to me of like what a creator should be.
you're gonna make me cry.
No, I'm serious. I love what you've done with your platform. I just love how you represent yourself online. I don't know. I would consider you one of my professional mentors.
Oh my God, you're gonna make me cry because you're the second person to tell me that this year.
You're like, yeah, tell me something I don't know.
No, it's one of those things where like, ever since I left teaching, everyone always asks me, do you miss teaching? And I'm like, there are things that I miss, but like I would never go back, like
Yeah.
at this point it's becoming so crazy in the classroom, like there's no way. But something that I do miss is like those relationships and those bonds and helping guide people and helping, even when I was teaching and I was teaching seniors, it's not like they were that much younger than me. Like, let's be realistic. I was 22 teaching 18-year-olds. So like I never saw them as like, I know a lot of teachers are like, oh, I love them like they're my own. And like I never had that experience because they're only like 4 years younger than me. They're like my brother's age, but still having that like mentor feeling of like helping teenagers figure out what they want to do for the rest of their lives, or figuring out, what makes them happy, what are their dreams, where are they going to go next. Like I miss that. And so being able to do that in the social media world is like the one thing I've ever missed in teaching. And I'm like, but I still get to do that. And so I love that so much. It's you. And Jessica Vanell also calls me her mentor, and it like makes me cry a little bit every time she does. She does the hotel skits.
Okay.
Yeah, she's sweet. She used to be a Disney cast member also.
Yeah.
But you literally, like, my mom can tell you because she's sitting right there. I talk about you all the time. Do I not? I'm obsessed with Sasha. I love Sasha. We love Sasha's. Literally, I have a friend in my Discord who also lives in Utah, and every time she speaks, I'm like, that's where Sasha's from. Like, that's Sasha's land. Like, I love you. And I think, like, in general, because before I met you, I had no idea what pageant life or anything like that was. And watching you, even when I was rewatching your year's footage on YouTube, and like, of course, I already watched you and I knew what all of your social impact statements were and stuff. And I still sat and watched your whole thing because I'm like, God, she's so like she speaks so clearly and strongly, and I love the hard work that she put into this, and I love the effort, and I feel like people really just don't understand what pageantry and what Miss America, what Miss USA is really like supposed to be about, if that makes sense. And so that's why I really wanted to like ask you questions and talk about it, because I feel like, you know, your entire social impact mission, I don't, is that what they call it, a mission?
It's changed so many times.
So we're gonna call it a mission.
Okay.
Like your whole mission was about like refugees and like changing legislation and helping refugees find play. That's a big deal. Like that is important work. And so like ever since meeting you, like hearing or seeing things on social media or hearing people talk about like, oh well, it's just a beauty contest, like that upsets me, because like as your friend, I know what you did. And then seeing what these other women would like really like work towards and strive towards, like I want other people to really see you guys in the light that I learned to see you guys in. And I think that's powerful and important. And you know, I just did this episode with Dr. Rachel about, you know, the words that we use with both ourselves and young children, you know, really shapes how they grow and sees them and sees the world around them. So I think that this is a really good, I'm not really making sense right now. I feel like I'm rambling. Are you following what I'm saying? Like
No,
I
I'm
feel
tracking.
like
Yeah.
I feel like changing the way that we talk about various topics, especially when it comes to, you know, beauty pageants. I'm doing all the air quotes for people that like aren't watching. You know, I think that's so important for the next generation and for young women growing up and for young girls who like might want to feel pretty every now and then, because who doesn't want to feel pretty every now and then, you know, but like also wants to make a difference and wants to feel strong and wants to feel smart and intelligent. So I'm going to shut up because I'm rambling, and I want to know how you got into pageantry and what that meant for you, and when you really started like I want to hear all the things. I'm just going to stop talking and I'm going to let you talk.
Yeah, well, I'm actually really excited to unpack this
I
because
love this.
I feel like whenever I tell people that I competed for Miss America or that I was Miss Utah, I feel like there are a number of reactions that I can just expect. A lot of the time, there's a joke about Trump, there's a joke about Miss Congeniality, you know, and I say a lot that Miss America has almost 100% brand awareness. Like everyone knows the name Miss America, and almost 0% brand understanding. Like they don't get what goes into it. They don't get what it's all about, who owns it, any of those things.
Right.
I kind of got into pageantry a little bit backwards.
Okay.
Because I started doing acting in like a professional context when I was a little kid, like 7, 8, 9. And actually I had one of my friends from the acting world who went and competed at Miss Teen Nevada and won. And her name's Ellie Smith. And I remember watching her at a really young age and recognizing that she had sought out pageantry as a very intentional move to forward her like long-term goals of working on Broadway and being a singer. And it was very strategic to advance this career that she was already working towards as a young girl. And I remember, you know, kind of watching her journey and thinking, okay, wait, like if Ellie could do it, I could do it, because a huge part of pageantry is interview. And I remember thinking I could be good at interview. And so I chose to do Miss Utah's Outstanding Teen when I was like 15, 16. And it was very much me being like, okay, like I have ambitions of doing media and doing entertainment as a career. How can I start working towards that at a young age? Which I think a lot of people will view pageants as being like not very empowering to young women. But I always try to explain the context that I was introduced to it, because like for me, it was very empowering. And I saw pursuing Miss Utah as a step to work towards like these loftier ambitions that I had to like get out of Salt Lake City and, you know, go see the world. And like, I live in New York now and I do content creation, things related to media full time. And I really credit my experiences in pageantry in preparing me to do that career. So does that make sense?
No, it makes so much sense. And I feel like even getting into pageantry has changed for a lot of people in the last decade or two. You can tell me if I'm wrong, because I actually don't know what I'm talking about. But I feel like, and I sometimes get Miss America and Miss USA mixed up a little bit, but I feel like even the aspects of the competition have changed and focused a little bit less towards visuals and beauty and just appearance, and have focused a little bit more on action and changing the world and like in intelligence and things like that. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
I just wanted to make sure I'm not talking out of my butt.
Yeah.
Or something.
No, I can kind of give you a quick primer. So
Okay.
Miss America is a little over 100 years old.
Right.
It started in 1921.
Your year was 100.
Yeah, I was at the 100th anniversary.
Mhm.
And so Miss America is kind of the OG.
Mhm.
Miss USA actually broke off
Okay.
when the Miss America winner refused to pose in a swimsuit after she had been crowned.
Really?
And the swimsuit sponsor was like, okay, well, I'm going to pull my sponsorship and go start my own pageant. And that became Miss USA. So the flavor of the brand of Miss USA has always been more modeling focused.
Okay.
And I always say the easiest differentiator is that Miss America has a talent portion.
Okay.
And Miss America has traditionally been an incubator for a lot of people who've like gone on to have performing careers, like Kate Shindle, for example, like came out of Miss America and then went on to go have a career.
Right.
Whereas Miss USA has spawned a lot more models and influencers and like high fashion type women, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Like sometimes I'll say in the pageant world, like Miss America is the girl next door. Miss USA is the girl that you wish lived next door. You know?
I like that. That's really
yeah.
I love that. So like what does an actual pageant like look like? What are the aspects of it? What do you have to do for it? And what are ways to prepare for each one?
Well, I should definitely caveat that because we're existing in a really interesting moment where people are sort of re-examining the place of pageantry in society, a lot of pageants have experienced change. So like when I was competing for Miss Utah, Miss America, the competition changed almost every year.
Okay.
And how it was scored and even like what I was competing in.
Okay, how so? Like what are some of the changes that you've experienced?
So I competed at Miss Utah 3 times. The first year we had swimsuit as part of the competition.
Really? It came back?
No, this was before they had gotten rid of it.
So, okay, so even though whenever Miss USA was created, they pulled the swimsuit like never left the competition.
So they still had a swimsuit competition at Miss America. The difference was that post crowning, she stopped appearing like at the mall in her swimsuit.
Oh, I did not realize she had to do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we've come a long way because now today, when you win Miss America, you actually sign a contract that you will not appear in a swimsuit ever during your reign. Yeah.
So you
come
can't.
a long way.
So if you win Miss America, are you allowed to post a bikini picture on Instagram or no?
As of a few years ago, it was definitely a no. I don't know what it is now.
Wow.
The current contracts.
Is that like, would that have been for their year or like?
It would have been during the time that they have the Miss America brand, which I think can makes sense to a certain extent.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Wow. How the turntables. Okay, so they got rid of swimsuit right before you or your first year you did it?
So I competed at Miss Utah once. Then they announced it was this whole social media campaign like bye bye bikini. Like we're getting rid of the swimsuit. And it was interesting because there had just been a leadership coup within the Miss America organization. And they had sort of sat down and had like a summit of the Miss Americas to talk about what they wanted it to be. Because there's this interesting social problem around Miss America in that it doesn't really belong to anybody. Like it doesn't really make a lot of money. It's sort of an idea.
Yeah.
And the people who have volunteered or have held the title have pretty strong opinions about what it should be. So anyway, they did the summit. They figured out what they wanted. They took out swimsuit and they announced that going forward, there would be no more aspects of the competition that were related to beauty or physical appearance.
I love that.
I loved it too.
I really love that the women who were previously held to that standard were like, no more.
Yeah.
No more. Like that I think is so powerful.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. Listen, with ADHD, losing all of my things is literally a daily occurrence. I'll have my phone or my keys in my hand and just poof, it's just gone. I know my cats moved them. They're just trying to mess with me. And of course, that makes me even later than I was already probably gonna be. Which is why I'm thankful for Life 360's new tile trackers. I can track anything with them, even my car when I forget where I parked, because that definitely happens more than it should. My favorite thing about the tile trackers is just how easy they are to use. We know I'm not the best at technology, but Life 360 makes everything so user-friendly. You can even use them to find your phone when it's on silent, which is a game changer for me. I needed that so bad. Keep track of what's important with Tile. Visit tile.com and use code Rebecca for 15% off on all tiles. That's tile.com/Rebecca. Now, back to the episode.
And what's interesting is that since then, there has been another change of leadership, and they have kind of walked that back a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So it's still an idea that's really up in the air. And more than anything, I would say right now, Miss America is defined by whoever holds the title. Okay. And Miss Utah is defined by whoever holds the title.
Okay.
And to me, that was the most interesting thing about competing in that world and doing pageants, is that we're sort of past the era in which winning Miss America gives you automatic celebrity. To be honest, like, people don't really care that much if you're Miss Utah. Like, it's a lot of people view it as a very bygone thing. However, if you as Miss Utah or you as Miss America are a self-starter and are ambitious and a hustler, and you know how to leverage your talents online and know how to make good media and know how to be savvy in negotiating business contracts, you can make something out of it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, nowadays, when you go to Miss America, in your interview, you're pitching for what you are going to bring to the table in terms of a business plan and how you are going to help the Miss America organization, right? Not vice versa. It's not like you win Miss America and suddenly, like, they roll out all of this help and support for you. Like, they do a bit at the national level, but at the state level, it's really just a team of volunteers that's supporting you. And a lot of the time, the Miss State, like Miss California, Miss New York, she's the one who's the most invested in doing everything herself. Right. And it's a really, really high standard that we hold women to. Interesting. When they're not actually as supported as you might think in the public eye.
I have so many questions about, like, what that was like for you as Miss Utah. But what did you have to do to, like, get to Miss Utah? Like, you competed 3 different times.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So I would say my biggest weakness as a competitor is my talent. Like, I was not born with, like, an incredible piano playing skill or an incredible voice.
Because I literally sat in the car, my mom and I watched you sing. I was like, I know I watched this live, but I have to watch it again. She's so good.
No.
So, like, you just, like, threw me for a loop for a minute. No. It's fine. Continue.
No, I would say that was definitely a struggle. I mean, I come from a very talented state. Utah is known for winning talent at the national level at Miss America.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Mormon girls who sing and play the piano and dance.
And they look very pretty when they do it.
They really do. And so I knew that to get out of Utah, or to win Miss Utah in order to be able to compete at Miss America, I'd have to get better at talent. Mm-hmm. So I would say I kind of had an underdog arc going through the Miss Utah organization. Like, my first year I placed in the top, like, 10 at the state level. Then they cut the swimsuit portion and they were like, we're trying to be more substantive about picking our winners. Right. Which I actually thought played really well to me, because I am much better at, like, conducting a debate than walking down a runway in a swimsuit. Yeah, definitely. And so I felt like the new competition was better suited for me. Mm-hmm. I got second runner up the next year that I competed, and then decided to compete, like, one last time. And it was interesting because that year I shifted the focus of my social impact initiative, or, like, your mission, as you might say, onto refugees and, like, more immigration form.
What was it before?
It was called Girls Empowered. Okay. And I was working on just, like, empowering women and empowering girls, which I really loved. I did a lot of volunteer work in Utah under that umbrella. But I got to the point where I felt like I was doing a lot of work with communities of very privileged women and very privileged girls, and kind of sat back and was like, okay, if I'm going to do all the work of competing for Miss Utah for another year, what's a more pertinent or timely way that I could leverage sort of the platform that I've been given? And I kind of zoomed in on, like, refugee work.
I love that. Quick question before because I know there's so many people that don't know, and I know
Okay.
you grew up with it and I watched it. What are the actual like aspects of the competition? Like if swimsuit's out and there is a social impact initiative, what else goes into this competition? Like what do you actually have to do? What are the different parts of it?
So first things first, you have a 10-minute long interview with the judges. And at that interview, you present your resume and then a page-long essay that outlines how you would use the title to advance your social impact initiative.
Okay.
So that's kind of like a job interview. It's kind of Shark Tank vibes.
I love that.
Is how I would explain it. And it's been said a lot that you can kind of win the competition in the interview room, and then you just want to stay consistent on stage. After that, you have a talent portion, an evening gown portion, and an on-stage question, which is like an on-stage interview. And then depending on the program you're in, there may be a fitness portion, which could either be walking on stage in a swimsuit like Miss USA, or in Miss America currently, they model like a fitness outfit on stage while they talk about what they do for physical fitness.
I remember yours were very bedazzled and very sparkly.
Yeah, we didn't have to compete in them at my Miss
they
America.
just showed them.
Yeah, it's actually fascinating. There is definitely a civil war within the pageant community over whether or not there should be a fitness portion at Miss America.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
I was right in the midst of that civil war when I was competing.
So, like, what are the requirements for the social impact initiative, and what does presenting that to the judges in your interview kind of look like?
So, your social impact initiative is how you would leverage the crown for good during your year, and it can really be anything under the sun. I've seen using social media in a healthy way. That's a very common one. I've seen a lot of them about research for various diseases. I've seen some that are more policy aimed. I've seen some that are environmental. So it's kind of whatever you want it to be.
Whatever you believe in, whatever you're passionate about.
Yeah. And I would say that what separates candidates who have been competing for a long time versus the newbies is just how honed in and how developed that social impact plan is. So a girl in her first year of competing, she might walk in and have a lot of really good ideas about world peace. Say it's like animal shelter. She might come in and say, I am going to cure our community of homeless animals. And as Miss Utah, I will make sure that no dog sleeps on the cold, hard ground. I will get every dog a home. And then year 7, at that point, you're saying, I'm going to partner with the Utah Humane Society to fulfill 200 hours of community service. And I will present a 60-minute long presentation to elementary school classes about spaying their pets.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that when you see a candidate get more sophisticated, she will get more specific in what she wants to do with her social impact initiative. Does that make sense?
You like unlocked some memories in my brain.
Yeah.
From your year.
No, I think pageant girls get a bad rep often, and sometimes it's well-deserved from having too lofty of ambitions and hopes about what they want to do.
I feel that. I get that.
Yeah, and there comes a piece of a lack of self-awareness where you need to be aware that people are probably a bit skeptical. If you walk in wearing high heels and a tiara, there is a bit of skepticism that's going to be natural.
I feel like being a pageant girl, the stereotype that already surrounds it, like what comes out of your mouth is going to make or break the stereotype. And when you come in, like when I tell you, I literally replayed your social impact. So long story short, I've been trying to find, and I already told Sasha this before this episode, I've been trying to find some of the examples of like some of the really good social impact initiatives I saw and some of the ones that left me thinking, oh my God, they just said that on a stage. Not only that, but their mentors in the organization allowed them to say that on a stage. And I have spent days trying to find this footage. I can't find it anywhere. But every time, even when I watched the entire thing on YouTube, I literally just sat there for Sasha's social impact because it was just so good and so strong. And like hearing the work that you actually put into it, like even though you only did it for a couple years, like I feel like you really set yourself apart from, oh, I really want a sparkly crown to, oh, I really want to use this platform to change the world. Like I remember And it's exactly what you said about, like, not only self-awareness, but what I think is really important is when you have representatives from Miss America who are coaching these girls and mentoring these girls, if you are sending someone to represent your state up on a stage to talk about their social impact initiative, you need to double check and, like, actually be mentoring and guiding these girls. Allowing a woman to go on national television and saying, when I'm Miss America, I'm going to make sure veterans stop harming themselves. That is not, like, that's very ambitious. And I get where your heart is. But that can also be very triggering for a lot of families and a lot of people who have experienced PTSD or their loved ones have experienced PTSD to say, like, what are you going to, you're wearing a crown. Now, all of a sudden, everything is, like, what are you going to do? What does that look like? Like, it's very frustrating to see, like, people like you who are putting in the real work and putting in the time and, like, really getting very specific and niching down and, like, working with refugee centers and going and talking to kids about this issue at elementary schools and partnering with nonprofits and things like that versus here's an idea and I'm going to solve this worldwide problem just like that. And I feel like it can be really harmful to girls in pageantry who are really trying to make a difference when not only is the self-awareness not there, because, like, you can't help when you've grown up sheltered. That's not your fault. You don't know what you don't know. I more so was upset with the organizers who, like, guided or mentored her, all the air quotes for people that can't see me, that, like, never checked that. You know what I mean? So, like, how much autonomy do you have? And what is the organization's role in, like, guiding you towards your social initiative goals or even checking what you're going to be saying on stage?
It's really interesting because I would say that definitely varies state by state.
Okay.
Each state is run like a local franchise with just a nonprofit team.
Mm-hmm.
Some states have a lot more money involved in the equation. Some states have $0 involved in the equation. So, like, for example, in my role as Miss Utah, I had maybe like 5 or 6 volunteers on the state board that were interacting with me fairly regularly, but definitely nobody that, like, did a media training with me or someone who sat down with me and coached me through what I was going to do at Miss America. And I think that sometimes there's this imaginary perception that, okay, if you win Miss Utah, then suddenly they're going to sweep you away to an academy and they're going to teach you everything that you need to know to go compete at Miss America. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Not at all. So, like, they didn't, like, look at anything that you did.
They did a tiny bit. I had a little bit of feedback at the state level, but to be honest, I come from a state where they're pretty clear in the selection process. They're looking for someone who is ready to go to Miss America, and they don't have to take them from point A to point Z.
Interesting.
And I actually worked a lot more with my local board, the ones that had gotten me through the Miss Greater Salt Lake program. And there are some states where they might have a director who doesn't even hardly talk to them throughout the year. And then there are some states where they might have a state director who's just breathing down their neck and has a really strong opinion about everything and makes their life very miserable. So it really, really depends.
Interesting.
It's not very consistent. Yeah.
So they really are on their own.
Very much. You're on your own.
Oh,
kid.
That's so devastating.
Totally. But this is one of the things that I really do appreciate about Miss America is that even though it can be embarrassing, even though you might get up on the national stage and do things that you look back and cringe, you're learning from it.
Yes.
And what I love about pageants is the way that they enable and encourage women to take up space and to get up on stage and sort of have a little moment to own your accomplishments and say, like, yes, I am captain of the track team and I did get a scholarship to Harvard. That's kind of the vibe of being a pageant girl, is you're really, really owning your accomplishments, standing in your power. And then I do love how it encourages women to dream really, really big.
Interesting.
And, like, I'm still friends with a lot of the people that I competed with at Miss America. And I feel like people gush about that a lot, like, oh, it's the sisterhood. But it actually is really cool to surround yourself with other young women who are sort of fearless about wanting to take up space on media and be like, yes, I would like to have a following. I would like to have a voice. I would like to, matter in the grander scheme of things. And a lot of the time that attitude or that lifestyle can be a little bit lonely. I would say that's one of the things that
1000.
I connect with you on, is that we're both really ambitious. And I think that there is a ton of value to the relationship building that Miss America provides, both with the people that you're competing with and the sort of scaffolding of volunteers that are supporting the organization. You know, because I've got really close relationships with my volunteers at the local level and at the state level, and women that I've known in the program throughout the years who have mentored me. And that's, I feel like, been invaluable in my career.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot of good that I think that it does.
Absolutely. It's finding those people of like-mindedness.
Yeah.
And like really like understanding each other.
Yes.
Like there's, even just with what we do for our careers, you know, you can tell your friends and your family and like they get it, but they don't get it. You know what I mean? And like finding people in your life that really get it, really understand your drive, not just seeing you thrive in it, but really get it and want it for themselves and want it for like each other also. Like people who get your drive, people who understand the ambition, people who understand the struggles of it and the hard work that goes into it. Like finding that, whether on social media or in the organizations, like that's so powerful. Like absolutely. Like yeah, it's a sisterhood, but it's so much more than that. You know what I mean? Like I 1000% get that.
Definitely.
So like what did you, so you won Miss Utah. You think that a large portion of it had to do with changing your social impact initiative. What did your like reign look like? Like what was required of you? What did you have to do as Miss Utah? Like what did that look like?
So your first and foremost responsibility as Miss Utah is you are the state level representative for the nonprofit and the work that it's doing across the state. So I would say like one bread and butter part of my job was going to the local organizations when they're conducting their competition and either emceeing or talking to all the girls, sort of being there to be the presence, sort of like the representative from corporate.
Yeah.
That's, you know, kind of what you're doing at the local level. And then you also fulfilled the Miss Utah school tour. And different Miss Utahs do more or less assemblies. I actually did fewer assemblies in my year because I think my topic was a little more controversial, unfortunately.
Like school assemblies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and because mine was related to immigration reform and welcoming refugees, there were some schools who had the room for that and like wanted to welcome it, and then some schools that weren't as
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I didn't see that.
I didn't do as many elementary school assemblies, but I love the ones that I did do.
Okay.
And then you kind of fulfill whatever other events Miss Utah gets booked for, which could be like a carnival or a 5K or singing the national anthem at an Air Force event on the base. It was kind of different every single day. You would kind of wake up and be like, okay, what am I going to do today? And you would do television interviews, media opportunities, and then whatever work you bring in through your social impact initiative. Okay. So for mine, I sort of specialized on working with an organization called Their Story is Our Story. And what they focus on is refugee storytelling. And I actually connected with another girl who's about my age, and her name's Sharuk. And we put together about an hour-long presentation for high school students and college students, sort of introducing them to the basics of like, what is a refugee? What is an asylum seeker? And talked a little bit about inclusivity in like classrooms and stuff.
Right.
So that was the work that I focused in on. But in a typical week, I could be doing 4 or 5 different events that were on just completely different topics from different nonprofits and things like that.
And this was technically considered like your job for a year. Like you were employed.
Yes.
Does Miss America like pay their state women representatives?
It completely depends on the state franchise, how much money they have and how they distribute that money. Okay. So I got a stipend that was about $700 a month. And then I had a car that I could drive for the duration of the year. And then I think my scholarship was $10,000 that I could apply to schooling. But during the year that I hold the title of Miss Utah, you can't have a job and you can't go to school. Those were the rules when I was in.
Wow.
So you're full time, and it honestly is kind of expensive. It is kind of a financial burden, I would say, and you have to treat it as you're doing a year of volunteer work because that's exactly what it is.
And so at the lower level, like at the district level, do they have something similar like that, or does the work and the full-time kind of job really start at state level?
At the state level.
Okay.
You definitely don't get paid on the local level.
Okay.
I would say that competing and holding titles at the local level is a bit like having a part-time or a quarter-time job doing nonprofit work in the community.
Okay.
And I would almost say it fills a similar role to being in a sorority. Like I would describe Miss Utah as my sorority in college because I didn't have a typical sorority.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah. So then how would you say that competing at Miss Utah and competing at Miss America was different or similar?
I would say I was well prepared for Miss America because Miss Utah has about 50 young women competing. So the scale of it is very similar.
Okay.
Miss America is different because it was at the Mohegan Sun Casino and everything's a little different,
a little bigger, a little flashier.
Yeah, they kind of describe it as stepping from the like college level to the big leagues. However, in Utah, we have spectacular production for our state level. Like the stuff that we're doing on stage looks beautiful. So I would say probably the best production I was ever in was probably at the Miss Utah level. But obviously at Miss America, it's a little more intense.
Yeah,
it's a little more scrutiny and stuff.
But do you think like the competition part, like the aspects of the competition were different at all? Or do you think they were like exactly the same?
In Utah, I would say that the talent is probably more competitive on average. Like if you were to compare the top 10 talents in Utah and the top 10 talents at Miss America, Utah might actually be harder.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like it's a gauntlet. However, I think at the Miss America level, you get a lot, not smarter, but worldlier, more sophisticated.
Less sheltered, maybe.
A little bit less sheltered. Yeah, that's something that I've heard the judges that will judge in Utah will, after the interviews, be like, whoa, there are a lot of sheltered young women here. Because typically the average candidate in Utah is younger because a lot of people get married very young in Utah. And, but yeah, I would say that the flavor is a little different, especially in interview. And when I went to watch Miss America before I was competing, I went the year before I won, I watched the Miss America competition and I was blown away by the speaking.
Really?
Like, oh yeah. Everyone is so good at interview at the Miss America level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also watched, I don't know if you remember, because I wouldn't have remembered. I just watched it. Miss New York's talent was that talk.
Yes, the monologue.
Oh, the monologue. She was so good. She was
great.
So good. It just, I looked at it. I was like, I hate that I love it so much because I'm Team Sasha, and I know that the competition's over, but I'm always gonna be biased. But I love that monologue so much. It was so good. It was like if you're gonna ask me to sit like a lady, be prepared when I stand like one too.
Yes, iconic.
Chills. But question before I get more into Miss America.
Yes.
And I know the answer to this, but I know other people don't. You said that people competing at Miss Utah are younger because they get married.
Oh, did I?
You did say that, and you unlocked a memory in my brain. I feel like a lot of people don't know that you can't be married at Miss America, right?
No.
Tell me more about that.
So again, the organization has come a long way, even in the last few years, because when I competed, you were not allowed to be married and you were also not allowed to be engaged. So
really?
Yes, there was a very popular practice of getting engaged in secret.
Oh.
Secret engagement. And then announcing it after the state competition if you lost. With the attitude being, oh, if I won, I would keep my engagement secret for a year. But now that I'm not going to, win Miss Utah, I'll announce my engagement.
Like it's a bittersweet kind of thing.
Yes.
What's the reasoning for that?
I'll give you the one argument and then another argument.
Okay.
One of the arguments is that Miss America is America's sweetheart. She belongs to no one, so she should be free and unencumbered. They've actually changed that rule, and actually the current Miss America, she's engaged and she's
good for her.
Yeah,
we love that. Okay.
Yeah, but I would actually say the better argument is that it's logistical. Okay. That in some states, not in Utah, but in some states, the demands of your state job are that you are traveling around the state constantly and you might have kind of uncomfortable sleeping arrangements and things like that where you need to be gone for days or weeks at a time, and they need to have more control over your schedule. So logistically, it's easier to not have a husband or a long-term partner. And then for Miss America, the idea for many years was that she was traveling nonstop. It would literally never be down in the city for more than a few days consecutively. And so in that case, it's also, again, more practical to not have a long-term partner. So I think,
kids.
yeah, or kids.
Right.
Yeah. However, the Miss USA organization, they've recently absolved that rule, and you can also have kids. You could be a mother or you could be married and compete for Miss USA.
I like that though.
Yeah.
Because like you could still be a mom and like kick ass. And
Yeah.
stuff.
And
Like,
there's no age limit either.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Which Miss America hasn't, which I think has more to do with, since Miss America is more scholarship focused, I think that they're trying to keep the age range
that makes
closer
sense.
to scholarship
That
age.
does make sense.
But people get master's degrees later and later in life nowadays.
Well, so speaking of the scholarship for Miss America, like we already heard about like what your responsibilities and what you received as Miss Utah. What does that look like for Miss America? Like what are her duties? What are her responsibilities? What does she receive for winning?
You know, this changes every year,
Okay.
so I'm not the right person to ask.
That's okay.
Yeah, and there have actually been several controversies lately over
Really?
whether Miss America was getting compensated correctly and things like that. Yeah,
Oh.
tea in the
Oh.
pageant world.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. So they are supposed to get a scholarship for school, like more than the
Yes.
state level.
Yeah,
Is it-
typically like $50,000.
Oh.
$100,000. So the scholarship for Miss America has historically been much higher.
Okay.
And then you do a year of work. And I will say that winning Miss America or Miss USA, that will blow open some media doors for
Right.
you.
For sure.
Our current Miss America, she's been doing really, really cool stuff
Oh, great.
in partnership with the Air Force because she's active military.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And I love her because she also loves like fantasy books. And so she'll be posting about what she's reading on her Miss America story. And I'm like, girl.
Add to cart.
Yes. Our queen, America's queen. Shout out to you, Betty March.
Oh, I love that. She's
Yeah.
a nerd like us.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay, interesting. So, like, you're still friends with Miss Alaska 1 year, correct?
Yes, Emma. Yes.
She was so sweet.
Oh, she's the best.
What did you know just from like talking to her, like what her reign looked like? Like what was required of her? I don't know if you even know.
Yeah. I believe she was working with the Special Olympics.
Yes,
during
that
her
was her
year.
social initiative.
Yes.
Act. Yeah, I remember.
And
that.
actually, she got to come out to Utah when we were doing the Outgoing Miss Utah week and come perform and MC at our state level, which
That's
was
so
really cool.
fun.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
So Miss America definitely travels way more than like Miss Utah.
Definitely.
For sure.
Although some of those like southern states, those jobs like Miss South Carolina, that's an intense job.
Oh, I'm sure.
So it might be the case that some of those in the areas that we would call like the
deep south.
yeah.
My friend
Yeah,
Katie was Miss North Carolina.
Really?
Yeah. It's so funny. So we were in teacher classes together because we were both going to be teachers. And at the time, I didn't know her super well. I just noticed that like the girl next to me was gone for a long period of time. I was like, I wonder where she went.
You're like, wait a
And then
minute.
like one day I just showed up to campus and there were like photos of her face all over like with the crown. And I was like, whoa, what's Katie doing? Like, I don't understand. And I was like, oh, she's going to Miss America. That's where she's been. Oh, my bad. And she came back and I was like, you didn't tell me. She's like, yeah, but I really enjoyed that you didn't know. She absolutely killed it. She did not become a teacher. She's my realtor. She sold me both my houses.
Slay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolute queen. Love that woman. She's got a baby now. Absolutely killing motherhood. But yeah, the deep south takes pageants very seriously.
Definitely.
Like for sure.
Yeah.
You don't have to Katie was gone like so much that year. I'm like, oh, she's off again doing who knows what.
There she goes.
Yeah. I can see that for sure. I can attest to that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I often describe pageants or Miss America as our country's foremost political incubator. Because
Interesting.
the job of Miss Utah is very similar to like campaigning for governor. Like I interned on a governor's campaign and it was actually the best preparation for doing the job of Miss Utah because you're kind of a little politician. You go to Rotary clubs and speak and then you shake hands and you're advocating for various policy things that you're supporting. And managing the nonprofit relationships. It's very, very akin to navigating the political world.
So interesting. Can you think of any other misconceptions that people might have about pageantry or Miss America specifically or anything like that?
I I really deeply don't like the misconception that it's objectifying to women, or that it's not an empowering space for women, because it's typically such a female led and operated space. Like the Miss America board is like women, the Miss Utah board is women. When I go compete at a local pageant, it's women that are choreographing it and sitting in the audience and supporting it. So it's really weird for people to say like, "Oh, you're doing this to perform for men or for the male gaze," and it's like, "No, we're
Where
doing
are
this
the
'cause
men?"
we like it." Yeah, like the men aren't going to pageants. That's not something that
They're
they
not
go
here.
do on a Friday, Saturday night. Like, no, it's so female gaze. I think the way that I view pageantry and the way that my thoughts around it have been shaped, because there is something that's so exciting about competing to be the best version of yourself
Yeah.
and to reach for the most glamorous, shiny version. So I don't know.
Do you think that there are, 'cause, like, there's a lot of stereotypes, especially about like the younger pageants. Do you think that that stereotypes surrounding that kind of world are correct, or do you find that they're just not?
I think that it's definitely out there. Like the toddlers and tiaras version of pageantry, that does exist.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily in the Miss America world. Like in the role of Miss Utah, I had two different young girls that I mentored called my Little Miss Utah,
Oh.
or my Little Miss, Greater Salt
Yeah.
Lake. And I loved having those relationships. I do actually think that holding a title in the pageantry world makes you more cognizant of young girls looking up to you. Like something I think a lot about every day as someone who is creating content on social media. I think about the extent to which I'm like filtering my image, or the way that I'm presenting myself, or how I'm capitalizing on looks and image as part of my job. And I think about how the young girls that watch me would internalize that example. And I think that some of my critical thinking related to that comes from being in the pageantry world for as long as I was.
So what advice would you have towards like moms who really want to get their kids involved in pageantry early, but how would you advise them to like stay away from the toddlers and tiaras aspect and more towards like what Miss America really stands for and like what's really important in the pageant world?
To be totally honest, as a mother, I don't think I would put my kids in pageants early.
Yeah.
I don't think I would let them compete until they were older teenagers and it was their choice.
Yeah. I like that. I love that answer.
Yeah, that's honestly my opinion.
Yes. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like thinking about it at that age, like the little girls, they're just running around in dresses that they think are pretty, right?
Yeah.
They don't really know what's going on. They don't really know what's happening. I think a lot of it is for the parents. I think that relates a lot to the conversations happening about kids on social media in general, which can be a very slippery slope. And we're probably upsetting a lot of parents right now, but that's okay. That's fine. We don't have kids. We don't know, but that's our opinion that, protect the children. They don't need to be on toddlers and tiaras. That's kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to participate in an endeavor like pageantry, you need to become very deeply rooted in your self-confidence and your and you need to have a very sophisticated understanding of like, I am me, no one else is me.
Yes.
My own type of beauty is beautiful.
Yes.
My own accomplishments are special. And I think those are very sophisticated concepts for a child to wrap their head around.
Well, imagine having a child grow up being rated on the dress that they're wearing or what talent they're able to come up with at age 8 years old, or like things like that. Like that can be so damaging to a child's view of themselves as they're growing up. I 1000% agree with you that like waiting until they're conscious enough to understand what it is to compete and they understand what the pageants are and they're comfortable enough in their own skin, which even as a teenager can be a really difficult time for that mental battle as well. So I don't know if there necessarily is like a one size fits all. This age is perfect to start, but like definitely not 5. Probably not.
Yeah, and And I almost feel like I want to caveat all of this strongly with, I think that there are situations, and this is why it's good to never, give broad parenting advice, because I feel like every situation is different.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there are some kids for whom they are seeking the spotlight and they want more time and attention on stage, or say that they want to be a singer, or in my case, they want to do public speaking, and they're seeking out venues and spaces to advance that skill. I think that in that case, pageantry can be a really supportive environment.
You're
right. It does kind of depend on the child.
There's a lot of things to think about. And even like, so much more than I do. Like literally I asked the question and then you answered it and I'm like, oh, that changed my way of thinking. And then you added the caveat and I'm like, now I'm changing my mind again. Because again, like you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And especially like from the little bit that I know about Miss America, like I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. I'm learning so much more from you even just now than I did yesterday. I feel like there are so many big conversations to have about kids in pageantry, kids on social media. Like there's so many aspects and ways to look at it that there's not necessarily a one size fits all answer. Because there's so many things to think about and there's so many possibilities. Like even the one thing that just popped into my mind is like, are they able to take like specific scoring out from some of the kids stuff? Like, you know what I mean? Like what's the best answer? But it's not something that we'll just find a fix today. I'm just rambling at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I do think that in a certain way, pageantry can support a detachment from yourself. Like there's value to me going on stage to compete at Miss America and doing 100 interviews and be like, okay, they're only going to take the top 10. Every other girl around me is still incredible and awesome and cool.
Right.
And everyone can individually, have achieved that. And it takes nothing away to not have made that cut. I think that there is an important lesson there to be learned, that like life is about competition. There's going to be comparison all the time. But again, that's just a very sophisticated thing to understand as a kid. So it's going to depend on the person at what age they're ready to learn that lesson and understand that and step into a space where there are winners and losers and there is direct competition and comparison. Because I also think that there's value to losing.
Yes, gracefully. Learning to lose gracefully, I think, is such an important skill.
Definitely.
Interesting. Can you think of any other like misconceptions or things that people just might not understand about pageantry or anything like that?
I mean, I think finally I'd probably speak to the misconception that it's Mean Girl Central backstage.
Oh,
I would often say like the movie Miss Congeniality, the most realistic part of that film is when like Gracie is backstage, she doesn't have the makeup that she needs, and all of the other contestants swarm her and are like, oh, like let me help you, like you can have my lip gloss, you can have my this or that, the other thing. And I'm like, that is actually very realistic to the environment that I've observed in the pageant world, that it's a very supportive, wanting everyone around you to be successful and cheering them on. I think that that's been 98% of my interactions in the pageant world.
I love that.
And I think most people wouldn't expect that. They would think that it's maybe more cutthroat than it usually is. But when I would talk to guys about it, I would relate it to like, well, going to Miss America is kind of like a bunch of athletes going to an elite quarterback camp. Like, yeah, they're your competition, but at the end of the day, you're all quarterbacks of your own teams that you're going to go back to in your home state. And you really respect each other for being on the same level. And that was kind of the energy and camaraderie that you experienced at Miss America.
I like that. That's a really good comparison. I think it's like tangible for people like football people. You know what I mean? Like for non-pageant people or like even just dudes in general. I like that a lot. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me, Sasha.
Thank you.
I am going to take up all your time to like hang out with you, but we'll actually cut the cameras and like go eat and like do fun things also.
Cut the cameras.
Yeah, cut the cameras. We're gonna go get food, guys. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope to see you next week. Bye, my lovelies. Listen, with ADHD, losing all of my things is literally a daily occurrence. Which is why I'm thankful for Life360's new tile trackers. I can track anything with them, even my car when I forget where I parked, because that definitely happens more than it should. My favorite thing about the tile trackers is just how easy they are to use. Keep track of what's important with Tile. Visit tile.com and use code Rebecca for 15% off on all tiles. That's tile.com/Rebecca.